Hello fellow Lions, and welcome to another episode of the Lions Pride Watch. Today we'll be reviewing Black Panther, and I'm joined by Emily, Timmy, Rondini, and Dr. Hobbs. Once again, I'm John Hall, and today is going to be very interesting because one of the reasons why is because we have Dr. Hobbs with us. And Dr. Hobbs, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm with the Department of Language Studies and the Arts, and I feel like I've been invited here today because I'm a pop culture super fan. But I'm also here to offer my opinions on literary value and any cultural relevance for Black Panther.
And so Black Panther has garnered a lot of interest over the last few months that the first trailer has been released. And so we're here today to discuss all of the different aspects of it. The first one that we want to discuss today is going to deal primarily with the cinematography of it. So Emily, would you mind starting us off this conversation?
Okay, so, we all know Marvel movies are really good with special effects and cinematography, but there was just something really, really neat about Black Panther. It was one of the most brightest and colorful Marvel movies I've seen in a long time. Like, every scene had something that just really drew your eye to the screen. I think one of my favorite parts was the whole spirit world thing, where it looked like the African Serengeti, but the sky was like different shades of the Aurora Borealis, and it was ever-changing, and it was just gorgeous to look at. And then you can't forget that awesome car chase scene. That was cool.
There's so many scenes to talk about, like especially the car chase scene, because they change the camera angles and just make you look at it. But the way they did it, the way they did this, the smoothness of the entire camera changing, camera angles, all the transitions, it worked out amazingly. It kept you on the edge of your seat the entire movie.
Cinematography wise, this movie was beautiful. I expected it to be beautiful. What I didn't expect was a lot of what went on during the movie. Seeing Wakanda for the first time, it was so different because the culture stayed even though the technology grew. And so everything that they do, their lifestyle, what they wear, everything is still influenced by culture. And I like that because it speaks to real world things that happen.
I agree. I think the cinematography was really breathtaking, really allowed you to get immersed in the movie. And I also enjoyed the costume design. I think it really popped. It really showed you their culture, but also showed how futuristic they have been.
Yes, and I think too that maybe contrary to some expectations, this cinematography really showed the grandeur, just the epic beauty and regalness of Africa. I think to a certain degree that maybe we didn't expect. And there's in Wakanda itself, you see all the different regions, possibilities in African geography. We see the jungles, mountains with snow and different climates, and also, we get to see a little bit of rural cultural life, and then we also get to see the high tech, and everything is there. And I think that's kind of amazing.
How do you all feel about the character development?
Well, I thought it was a really interesting take on the character development because in this case, King T'Challa, the Black Panther, was kind of starting to struggle with what his ancestors did and whether or not he could accept something that they did in the past and how it was affecting their future and the future of his people and outsiders. So it was really him trying to find the right balance with being a good ruler and just bringing unity to everyone.
I agree with that. T'Challa, at the beginning of the movie, he actually wants to be just as good of a man as his father was when he went through the Black Panther warrior process again. But he actually never understood what his father did in the past, the bad that he's done. And so through the movie, you see him struggling whether or not he actually truly does want to be like his father now that he knows the truth. But then he understands, no, I need to change this. I need to be the better man. I need to actually give people what they need, but not in the way that he's trying to.
In terms of everything that they did in terms of character development, I think the beautiful part and the component of it was the fact that everyone lent to the overall movie. There was just a lot happening, and I think I really like the fact that they fleshed out for the first time a really good villain. In fact, two good villains. I don't want to spoil anything, but to see both persons on screen, it was beautiful to see. And for the first time, I think they did a really, really good job at giving us someone that was not a villain, but someone that just had a cause to be upset.
I think for the first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, since Loki, we had a really great villain they developed the villain really well. We learned his backstory, and we're able to like know his motivations of why he's doing what he's doing. Fleshing him out really allows the audience to like empathize with him, and it really like pulled me into the story and really allowed me to relate with him. I really enjoyed that.
And this is a type of villain as well, Killmonger, that, yes, he's a terrible person. He kills people at random and so forth. That's not very nice. But at the same time, his message is something that is a real message, and it resonates. And T'Challa, trying to follow the tradition of his father, is one particular point of view, where we have this opposite point of view that's crying out in the wilderness. It's like, hey, what about this? Why do we have to be so secretive? Why do we have to not share everything that we have? And somewhere in the middle is some type of workable compromise. T'Challa had to struggle with sympathizing with his enemy, someone that wanted to take the throne from him. He rises to the occasion to bring the core values, develops personally to respect everyone, not only the traditions of his own community, but the entire planet. And I think that's admirable.
What do you think about the plot? Do you think this plot was a cookie-cutter plot? Do you think the plot is standalone? And what's your impression about it?
Well, of course, I think you can find the hero's journey in the story, but I think they do have some interesting twists. And plot-wise, this is an interesting, manifestation of the Marvel series in that it tries to do everything, and maybe we can discuss later if they're successful at it. But it's a little bit of a sequel, right? We were introduced to T'Challa's struggle and the death of his father in Civil War, which is a different franchise. It's also a little bit of a prequel because they bring in some of the backstory. I think you could watch this film without having seen any of the other Marvel films, too. I believe that you don't really need that information in the way that you would have needed maybe for Justice League. I think they did a good job of addressing that. They knew that this might be the first experience to a comic book movie that some people have ever had. So, in my opinion, kudos.
I really felt like they played with the 3-act structure a bit, but I feel like it felt unique in its own type of way, even fitting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
There's like real world issues happening in that. Like there's just not this isolated thing where we feel like we're just in Africa, we're just dealing with something here. And so the plot develops, and so we see that this plot is fleshed out a whole lot more than others before it, because we have a little bit more of connection to it. And so that's what I think differed in this plot.
I think that this plot was about like making these hard decisions that only a king could make. Because when you think about it, they talk about the entire movie about how helping out other people, helping out other things would be bad, because then they would want technology, they would want to wage war, they would want to do all these things. And even like the actor Martin Freeman, he's trying to get Wakanda to join the United Nations to help other people to do things, even though he doesn't know much about Wakanda. The main part of the plot is like the choice of, you have the power. Do you choose to stand back and watch the world burn, or do you choose to stand up and help?
I think what I really liked about the plot was it was actually really refreshing for a Marvel movie. It was very steadily paced and had to deal more with exactly the emotional and social issues first before getting into the cheap conflicts and the big stuff. But it wasn't so slow that it just dragged on, it was boring. It really added some stuff to really make you think.
I want to talk now too about the underlying themes that were just represented in the movie. For me, I see community, and it's definitely one of our core values. But I think even from the previews, it's not a spoiler, but from the previews there was a significant line. It said it's hard to be a good man and a king.
And it's hard for a good man to be a king.
And I think that's a message that actually transcends through just about everyone. What do you guys think about this?
You're the leader of this entire country, this entire community, and they're relying on you. And you have to decide, is it what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do? Because for one thing that can be right to somebody else, like Killmonger, it can be wrong.
I'm going to take a page from the book of my man Spock here and say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Because, yeah, T'Challa was dealing with making a choice, helping his entire culture or helping one wronged individual. And while it was hard because that one wronged individual was part of his culture, had been betrayed by his own family and community, he still had to decide, is there a place for him anymore here? Is he too far gone? Do I try to right his wrong or protect my people from further wrongs he's trying to commit?
And don't forget Spider-Man. It says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that ties into his message a little bit as well. And community too. Sometimes making a decision as a king or as a leader isn't just about what's right and what's wrong, because there's a spectrum of possible choices in between. And yes, so if you're taking the utilitarian point of view, right, which choice will benefit the most and hurt the least, then you have to start filtering it through the values. And I think that's kind of what he did. And I think that brings us back to the community concept. Because we say, yes, this film's about community, but what community? And I think they did a good job of helping him look at it on the micro level and on the macro level. Because on the micro level, Wakanda has issues with community. There were a number of tribes, 4 or 5 tribes that came together at some point in history to form Wakanda, but one tribe decided not to go along with it, even though they were in Wakanda. And that community sort of has felt left out. They were very traditional and were treated. And at some point, he has to unite them too, make them feel included and make them understand that all of this affects them as well. And that takes some critical thinking, some critical reasoning that he has to do, and just reaching out and some compromise. And at the same level, the macro level, Wakanda is not just an island that served them well for a long time, but the world has changed, and sometimes you have to change with the world. And that's where they have to address the community at large. And they've done a good job too. We were talking earlier about the plot. Whether the film stand alone, as a prequel, as a sequel, it's all those things. And if you're a super fan, right, and you know what's coming with Infinity War, then all of this has to happen too. One of these films had to do this. And we know that they're prepping themselves. The world is going to have to unite itself at some point, because they're going to be facing a greater threat that divided they will not win. And they're going to need Wakanda's help, and Wakanda is going to need the world's help. I think that's kind of beautiful in a way.
I think you guys pointed out like most of the things, and I think the beauty of this movie is that the themes really round the movie and makes it relatable and relevant to today's time. Like with all the political messages and the social themes, it really allows the movie to be grounded. I really enjoyed that.
So was the movie worth the hype?
Absolutely.
What I saw as well, and a lot of people gravitated towards the fact that there was a large black cast. So I'm wondering if you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. So I think it was a strategic move on behalf of Marvel to release it during this time as well, Black History Month. So what can you pull from this?
Well, I think that this move of making it almost entirely black cast was actually it was a bold move, but it was a good one. It was something that needed to happen, because with all the things that are happening, like in our society today, they showed this thing to like everybody who watched it. They had to send out this message to people saying, hey, it's not just war, we need to come together, we need to do the right thing because it is the right thing.
Yeah, definitely in today's society there's a lot of racial tension going on. This movie really, it wasn't in your face about, the rights of other races, but it was a very nice, low-key, subtle, emotional, empowering message that I think could really motivate a lot of people to either stand up for themselves or stand up for that friend and neighbors, to just be there for each other. And I really liked that.
It's great seeing like representation on screen, because I can look at it and feel inspired and feel like there's someone like me on screen, and I really enjoyed that.
My opinion about the whole thing was it didn't disappoint, so according to the hype. But I'm also happy, and I know this probably will split audiences the way this was presented. I'm not so sure. Believe it or not, there is some negative criticism about the film, but I don't think it's in the majority. But I do like how they didn't shy away from the topic of slavery, right? It was there, and it was like, look, in this fictional universe where Wakanda is sort of separate from this, what is their responsibility in all of this? They didn't shy away from it, and I liked the way their culture referred to the outsiders, particularly whites, as colonials, right? And they didn't shy away from the history of colonialism and post-colonialism issues. And maybe that makes some people uncomfortable, but I think sometimes these movies gloss over those topics, and they didn't shy away from it. maybe no more needs to be said, maybe more needs to be said. But Ulysses Claw, of course, is a stereotype, is an archetype. He represents all that is bad, not all of that. But, it wasn't just one man, you know, it wasn't just Ulysses Claw, it was an entire civilization that made this happen. So I'm glad that it has a little bit of a serious tone to it as well. It's fun, but it also has some message in there that we can take away.
What's your rating for this movie? Let's start with Rondini.
5 out of 5. It's really great.
Emily?
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
If 5 means don't watch it on Netflix and watch it at the cinema, then I'm not saying. This is one that's worth your money. If this is a genre you like, you won't be let down.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Lion's Pride Watch. If you like what you've seen here, please comment down below in the comment section. Leave us a message, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like about Black Panther, and let us know what you want to see next on the Lion's Pride Watch. Until then, see you later.